So which is it? Joining me now, it's the CIO of Kingsview Asset Management and Fox News contributor. It is Naughty Scotty Martin. Welcome back, Scott.
How did you know that?
Well, I've read the internet 4 times. It was one of my assignments in college. So, Scott, let's talk a little bit about this budget. Who claims victory here?
Well, it depends how it pans out, Kennedy. I mean, this is going to be a really tough one because this budget, as you know, is already getting met with, I think, a lot of fraud and worry. I mean, if you read the headlines, as you mentioned, you do read the internet, which is good. If you pull up any headline on the budget proposal, you're going to hear that Trump doesn't care about the poor, that he's ditching a lot of support for science agencies and all the other things that go along with kind of this rhetoric we see out there on the administration. So if he's able to get this budget through, let's just say it's not the first pass of what's been proposed, but something of the like, I think he wins. But there's going to be a lot of opposition to start, that's for sure.
Yeah, there is going to be a lot of opposition, and there should be some conservative cost cutters who take issue with the fact that it really only tackles about 1/3 of the budget, which is the discretionary spending, and doesn't really make any meaningful cuts. There are, of course, cuts to food stamps and Medicaid potentially, but in the long run, it doesn't save that much money.
It really doesn't. And that's what really speaks to, I think, Trump's rhetoric so far, Kennedy, is do you get better with this budget scenario by making these cuts? And maybe you make them just on the surface with what we've seen so far in the details today. But do you also maybe make a dent in the budget by actually having, oh, my goodness, economic growth come back to the country? Because that's really what I believe the Trump administration is trying to do here. They've talked about the tax cuts. They've talked about the pro-business environment they're trying to institute going forward. That is what is probably going to help more with the budget than a lot of these superficial cuts.
And I think you see the markets respond to that. You know, when he talks about cutting regulation and, you know, we don't have responsible spending with this administration, but certainly the environment that you're talking about is something the markets respond favorably to. And, you know, I think that is always good news. Tax reform, of course, looming. Does this budget complicate that at all?
It does, because I think so far Trump has found Washington, D.C. to be a lot tougher place than maybe he thought it was going to be. And as you mentioned with the health care reform, tax reform, you know, those things are turning out to be as complicated as, say, a Twin Peaks episode as far as the twists and the turns, because everywhere you go within those proposals, there's something that the Congress wants to change, or there's something that comes back different when you see its second or third iteration. So seeing as we have so much on the table here and little done so far, it's a little bit discouraging, that's for sure.
All right, Scott Martin, thanks so much for your time and your optimism, except for the negative part.